Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here. Thanks for your patience, another late one today, but we do have some really exciting news to go through for Tesla in California. We also have updates on Supercharger V4 and a couple other items as well. All right, looking at the stock, a little bit less exciting. Tesla down 1.4% on the day today to close at $265.28, while the NASDAQ was up 0.6% on the day. All right, so we'll hop right into the news out of California. As we've known previously, this isn't new, but the Model Y is the best-selling vehicle in California. Once again, if we look at the Model 3 and the Model Y together, we've got about 40,000 registrations in the year so far, year to date so far for the Model 3, and about 75,000 for the Model Y. Obviously, you can see how those compare. I'm covering that a bit, but you can see how those compare to the other vehicles in their segments as classified by California. So Model 3 near luxury car, about 10 times the runner-up Lexus ES, and the Model Y more than 10 times the Audi Q5 in the luxury compact SUV segment. But of course, especially with the price cuts and tax credit, the Tesla vehicles here extending much further into lower range vehicles. So top selling passenger car, Model 3, 41,000, Model Y, 75,000. So you can see how that compares with Toyota's top models. And then if we scroll down here, one chart that we always like to look at is the market share in California. So this is again year to date. Toyota is the best-selling brand, it says here, at 14.7% market share so far this year in California compared to 12% in the United States as a total. Tesla up there in second place at 13.6%, just 4% in the US, but heavily overpenetrated in California. So what's going on? Toyota best-selling brand, that doesn't match up with the title, but remember, that's year to date. So let's scroll down here and let's look specifically at registrations in the second quarter. Scroll down alphabetically here. Look at Tesla, of course, 69,000 vehicles so far in the second quarter, 62% growth year over year. But most interestingly is if we look at Toyota right there next to them, Toyota at 67,500 vehicles in the second quarter. So that means for the second quarter, Tesla was the number one selling brand in the entire state out of all vehicles, ICE, BEV, whatever. Tesla was the number one brand in California, which is awesome. And this is, Tesla's original home state, obviously has now moved over to Texas for the headquarters, but for Tesla to now take that position after, 20 years, I think, from founding is a very exciting milestone. I think deserving of a huge congratulations to Tesla for this accomplishment. It really, I can't really say enough about it. There's not enough superlatives to describe how amazing this is that this has been accomplished and how exciting it is to see. And we're just kind of getting started here, right? Tesla's going to continue to go down market. We've got vehicles coming like the Cybertruck, and of course other areas like the Semi, which won't add as much to registration numbers, but will make a huge impact as well. So very exciting, and congratulations again to Tesla for that. And then just looking at EV share in California overall, continuing to see really nice growth here, now crossing 21% so far year to date in the first half. So, really nice to see that chart, and hopefully again, very early stages, and we'll see that continue to grow. All right, we'll move on from California here and into insured vehicle numbers for China. It's been a couple of weeks since we talked about this because the last week's numbers came out right around the time we were doing the earnings preview, so didn't make the cut into that episode. So we'll talk about a couple weeks. The first week of the third quarter, so July 3rd through the 9th, obviously was a slower start, as there were probably a significant number of vehicles that Tesla was exporting at that period, which we talked about at that time. 10,000 though in the second week, so a really nice jump in the second week, and then a little bit of a decline here in the third week of July, down to 7,700. So we're still early in the quarter. I wouldn't say it's been like a really great start, a really hot start, but it's a short window. During these short windows, we don't know how much Tesla is necessarily exporting versus selling domestically. And as we had talked about, it looked like they did drain inventory a little bit, specifically in China. I don't have the wholesale sales figures pulled up here, but remember in June, there was more production. There were more wholesale sales than there were production, which means that inventory is going to be a little bit lower than, it would be otherwise. So could be, explaining a little bit of what's going on here in the first few weeks. Not that it's a horrible result, but not quite as strong certainly as what we saw start Q2 off. Although maybe a little bit of an anomaly there in the second quarter. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that as we get those numbers each week. And then we do also have an update on Supercharger V4. I think this was first noticed or first shared by Tesla Owners UK on Twitter/X. We'll have to figure out what we're calling that going forward. We'll stick with that for now. But interestingly here, this is a design plan for a new Supercharger location. It looks like it's going to have, I think, 16 Supercharger V4s for this location. And interestingly, in parentheses, you can see here, they have put Supercharger V4s at 350 kilowatts in terms of their charge rate or their power. So interesting to see that. Obviously, there's been some alluding to this number in the past, and even 350 kilowatts plus. So we could see even a little bit more than this potentially. But interesting to see this in a planning document. This isn't necessarily like an official Tesla document, but presumably it is put together with information directly from Tesla as a part of the plans that they're discussing here. So interesting to see that. And then another piece of this is we've been talking about just the actual construction of the supercharging pedestal. And there have been a couple of photos, I think also shared by Tesla Owners UK, of seemingly the screen on the side of the supercharging pedestal. And from the drawing that's included in this proposal, we can see that very much appears to be the case. It's a little low resolution, but we can kind of zoom in there and you can definitely see a screen right below where the supercharger would dock on the pedestal. So interesting, we'll have to see what Tesla's plans are for that. Again, I think it's a little bit of a weird location. I guess they're assuming that it's all going to be done once the supercharger's undocked, but we'll have to see what Tesla has in mind for that. Nevertheless, exciting to see the 350 kilowatt rate mentioned, and hopefully we'll start to see vehicles that can unlock that. Whether that happens with current generation vehicles or next generation remains to be seen. All right, on to the Megacharger, or I guess formerly known as the Megacharger. I think Tesla is now starting to call it the Tesla Semi-Charger. I'd have to double check on that, but I feel like they did make that adjustment. Anyway, it looks like they are installing a new one in Baker, California, and someone went out there and was able to see it and get a little bit of a couple of photos of the connector here, which is obviously quite a beast compared to the normal NACS connector for the smaller vehicles, the light passenger vehicles. But you can see it's still, relatively maneuverable, as we have seen with, Pepsi employees and things like that. So good to see, Tesla starting to make expansions on the semi-charging program, and hopefully the first of many of these to come. Not the first, but one of the first of many of these to come. Compared to CCS, not quite as a step up in terms of size. All right, FSD Beta. So FSD Beta 11.4.6, I believe, has started to roll out to early beta testers. So Tesla Raj sharing the updated release notes for this version on Twitter. These release notes are the same as the prior iteration that had been released to the public, with one exception. The last release note that has been added, try to zoom in if I can, says that Tesla's introduced automatic emergency braking on general obstacles detected by the occupancy network. So they previously had mentioned a couple of updates to automatic emergency braking, but this one is newly added to the release notes in 11.4.6. So it looks like Tesla expanding that feature set to include anything that the occupancy network detects and then apply emergency braking on that. And right now, obviously, it seems like it's part of the FSD feature set, but also over time, I would imagine that this is going to dramatically start to benefit vehicles that don't even have FSD Beta. I'm sure Tesla will integrate this to all vehicles at some point, which should pretty significantly improve safety from that feature. So definitely exciting. And if Tesla's integrating that, it means they're relatively confident that it's not going to cause too many false positives or, phantom automatic emergency braking. So I'm sure that's what they've been working a lot on over the last few weeks, as we haven't seen a public update for a bit. So exciting to see that. Haven't got a chance to test it out yet, but I'll try to provide some thoughts when I do get that opportunity. All right, a couple things on Cybertruck today. So there's been quite a few of these going around, but I think originating with, it seems like, I don't know if this is like a Facebook post or seems like maybe a Facebook group. But someone shared a photo of their Cybertruck design screen, and it says, "The countdown begins. An early reservation holder, your order is going to be filled soon. You will be notified to complete your Cybertruck configuration sooner than most." We have no confirmation if this is accurate. This could easily be a photoshopped, photo. So I don't think there has been any secondary confirmation of this, and I think that we probably would have that if this were accurate, because obviously there are a lot of people on, the Tesla online community that made very early reservations. So if this was accurate, I feel like by now we'd probably have a second confirmation of it. Outside of that, we've gotten a whole bunch of spoofs of this with people making different, Photoshop versions saying different things. But as far as I know, we don't have confirmation of this yet. So we'll keep an eye on that. But for now, put it into kind of the, maybe the rumor or fake news category, and we'll see how it develops. And then we talked yesterday about the F-150 Lightning, or the F-150 wrap on the Cybertruck. And here we get a little bit of a closer shot. Those ones were a little bit further away and in the shop, and the video that we had was a little bit, very brief, but a couple of good shots here of that wrap, which is obviously pretty humorous and attention grabbing for people that may happen across it. So wanted to share that as well. And then I don't know that we need to continue to look at every new video of the Cybertruck, because there are so many of them now, which is super fun. And hopefully we'll continue to see more of those. All right, next a quick update on Tesla Energy. So Neoen, who Tesla is partnered with very frequently for energy storage projects in Australia, sounds like they are going to be expanding one of their projects in Queensland. This is going to be a 540 megawatt hour project now, up from the initial plans of 400 megawatt hours, and then similar increase obviously on the power side, 200 megawatts going to 270 megawatts in terms of the power capacity there. So always exciting. Obviously, it's a little bit of a drop in the bucket where Tesla's total scale is now, but all those drops continuing to add up significantly in each quarter. So always exciting to see those pieces of news. And then GM did report earnings this morning. I haven't had a chance to dig into those yet, but one thing that they did mention, previously they had talked about how they were ending production of the Chevy Bolt, which is obviously one of the earlier sort of mass market long range EVs, coming out a little bit before the Model 3. So that was supposed to end, but they did confirm that they are going to continue the Chevy Bolt on the second generation Ultium batteries. I'm not a huge fan of Ultium as we've discussed previously, but looks like GM is continuing to, or has plans to continue Bolt production with that version. So not sure exactly when that will spin up for that second version. Sounds like they're having a little bit of issues right now with Ultium. Probably a little bit unsurprising as they ramp that, but we'll keep an eye on that for GM. And then the last couple of things as we head into tomorrow, obviously got to keep an eye out for the FOMC meeting. That happens a couple of hours before market close, or rather the results of that will be a couple hours after market close. And then 30 minutes later, there will be the press conference with Fed Chair Jerome Powell. So always injects a little volatility, but looks like expectations are pretty well aligned going into the meeting. If we look at the FedWatch tool here from CME Group, looks like expectations are now 99% for a 25 basis point increase. And actually the 1% that used to be on a pause has now flipped over to a 50 basis point increase. So people seem to be pretty well aligned on what's going to happen tomorrow. And most likely, as we have often seen, the reaction would probably be more based on the comments from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, that he answers his comments and then questions and answers from the panel there at the FOMC meeting. So keep an eye on that, but that'll wrap it up for today. So as always, thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and signed up for notifications. You can also find me on Twitter/X at Tesla Podcast. And we'll see you tomorrow for the, calendar flipped here, so Wednesday, July 26th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.